Welcome to the Exit Teams podcast, where business owners and their advisors get real-world insight on how to build a team of advisors, maximize value, and exit on their own terms. I'm your host, Bob Tankesley, author of Exit Teams, Build a Team of Advisors for Your Business Sale to Get a Higher Price. You can find that book and all kinds of content at exitteams.com. You can order that book from Amazon. Just start typing in Exit Teams. Should be the first hit. Hey, whether you're years away from selling or thinking about an exit now, this episode is packed with must-know tips to help you avoid costly mistakes. So let's dive in. Today, I'm joined by a true expert in the world of business leadership, my good friend, Pete Srodoski. Pete is a former CEO and COO who now helps growth stage founders build businesses that run without them. Through his firm, Roll with the Punches, Pete works with business owners doing 1 million to 20 million in gross revenue who feel like everything still depends on them. His approach is practical and hands-on, focused on clear ownership, real accountability, and leadership structure that actually holds. Pete is the creator of Level Up Your Leadership and the R3 operating system. And he's also the author of multiple leadership books, including Build Kick-Ass Teams and Lead with Empathy. Pete, welcome to the show. I've been looking forward to this one. We're going to have some good content here for our audience.
Thanks, Bob. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah. Hey, let's start with this. You know, we often talk about the pain points that owners experience, and let's face it, it isn't all sunshine and roses, right? So many of them feel like they are the go-to default problem solver in their business. We see this way too often. What do you see most often that keeps owners stuck in that role?
Well, I think they build that relationship intentionally, based out of insecurity. A lot of times that the owner, they build this relationship with their team where they trust their team, but they feel uncomfortable with providing them the resources or the ability, the autonomy to have decisions, to be able to, um, you know, uh, make those decisions on their own, right? And the trust to um, go ahead and completely fulfill on their obligation for themselves, right? And what happens a lot of times is owners and founders, they want to control everything that's going on inside their business. They want to make sure that everything that they have, um, they don't think anybody else can do it as well as they can,
Are you
right?
saying owners have trust issues? Seriously?
Yeah, I
And
mean,
and coupled with control issues? I've never seen that, Pete. Come on.
oh, and it's okay though, right? Like this is a normal thing. This is a normal behavior. It's their baby. They created it. They've got a lot of money invested. It's their pocketbook. It's nobody else's pocketbook, and it's understood, right? But no one's going to care about my business as much as I do, right? And so it's normal, right? But the problem is when they do that, they create this thing where it's really hard to sell my business, right? It's really
Yeah.
hard to put that to somebody else because it's dependent upon me. All of the decision making process, it's dependent upon me.
I
And
see that I see that way too often. Way too often.
what happens when I leave the building? It all stops. It all ceases to exist when I walk out.
Yep.
And this is one of the things that I get really invested into is how to fix that when the owner steps out of the building, how to build that decision making matrix when the owner leaves, how to build that leadership structure, that cadence, that follow through, and that execution, even when the owner is not in the building, how to trust and verify, you
Yep.
know.
This is a real problem too, because when the owner turns into a seller and they're trying to find a next new owner for this business, every time I represent a company that I take to market, without fail, the first conversation or two, every buyer that presents themselves, they all ask it differently. They're all asking the question, what happens to this business if something happens to this seller? They all word it differently, but it shows just how widespread of a concern it is among the buyer pool, no matter what business industry the business is in, no matter where it's located. Uh, I would say almost no matter what size, but there's realistically there's a point where a company gets large enough, it's kind of at that enterprise level, and new ownership could step in, and the company keeps humming along. But at the lower mid market, where you and I tend to focus, buyers are unbelievably concerned about what happens when they become the new owner.
Well, and rightfully so, Bob. I mean, if you think about it, the likelihood of somebody wanting to buy an owner's business where they're fully invested and required to be in that business operationally for everything to move, why would anybody want to buy that?
Yeah.
Right? And why would anybody want to work there? Right? So how in the world can you step away from that? So when you're saying things like, "Hey, I'm working 18-hour days or 14-hour days, or I don't have an opportunity to step away, or when I go on vacation, I'm
Mm.
still brought into every single decision." Of course you are. I'm not surprised at all. Right? The thing that I constantly hear from the CEOs that I coach is, "I'm exhausted." Well, of course you are. You've built it that way. Right. So it's not surprised that when you go to try to sell your business, that nobody wants to buy it.
You've heard me say this stat before. The percentage of small businesses that actually sell. And for those just listening on audio, I'm holding up four fingers. It's 4%.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing? I used to go back and forth. See, uh, of all the businesses out there, small businesses, only about 20% are ever taken to market, and only about 20% of those ever transact. And I used to go back and forth. Where's the bigger opportunity? The 80% that are never taken to market, or the 16% of the total that were taken to market, but they just couldn't get across the finish line? And I don't know about you, but I've kind of landed on that 16%. The vast majority of that 80% that are never taken to market, it was probably never a business to sell to begin with, just way too owner centric. The 16%, though, contained enough businesses where some people or some group of people thought there was enough market value here to go find another owner for it. And there's these same systemic reasons why a huge chunk that are taken to market never cross the finish line. The same systemic reasons, preventable reasons, I should say, years in advance of going to market with someone like your help. Hey, leaders who struggle to put structure behind their leadership. Why does that even happen when they know the business is not scalable without it?
Well, I mean, the biggest word I would always say is ego. Right. Ego is typically the thing that causes a lot of it. I feel like I can do it myself. That's the
Yeah.
number one thing I always hear. Um, Nobody can do it as well as I can do it. I don't need help. Um, it's easier for me just to do it. It's easier for me just to handle it.
Yep. Quick fix. Don't
Yeah,
empower your people. Don't trust them. Don't give them the tools they need.
yeah.
Let me just
Nobody
step in
knows it
there.
as well as I do,
Yep.
right? I mean, because ultimately you're the HVAC guy, right? You're the guy who learned how to be a great HVAC guy. You built your way up. You were fantastic at HVAC. You grew your way up in the business, and you started your own business, and you're fantastic at it. And you built up a second truck, and you got a third truck, and you got a fourth truck, and now you've got a full HVAC business, and no one knows heating and cooling as well as you do.
That's
So
the problem.
why should you trust anybody else?
Yep. And
But
there's got to be a cost to all this. So what have you seen, like, in terms of value and growth, when the leadership is not systematized before an exit, before we're able to present something to the marketplace that buyers can look at and say, yep, that can run independent of the owner? There's got to be a cost to all this.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's actually interesting. This is one of those things that it wears down through attrition, Bob. It's erosion
Yeah.
because if you had built a system up front and you had put that together originally and you had scaled the business and it had grown organically through a leadership team, through a structure, and developed organically, you'd have the opportunity to dramatically improve your profitability. But what ends up happening is you lose profitability over time. And every month, every year you wait, it erodes that profitability opportunity. So the longer you wait, it catches up with you and it erodes and it continues to erode. So when you wait far too long, yes, you can make that flip, you can get help later on, but you've devalued your business and your brand and you've done so much damage. It's hard to kind of come back from that. Yes, you can, but you've missed out on opportunity cost.
I was just thinking that. I was just going to ask you to dive deeper on this because this I think is huge. And I was going to mention the phrase opportunity cost. When time is gone, it's in the rearview mirror. You know, you've missed out as an owner on the opportunity to improve your business. I always tell owners all the time, and I say it in the book, if you have, as an owner, if you have time, money, the right people, and your own health, and your own health has been kind of a very large factor lately, optimize the company, get it ready for prime time, reduce the objections that any future buyers are going to raise, stand out among your peers when you take this company to market because these buyers are going to have options. And all else being equal, we know they're going to favor companies that are well run, even if they have to pay a little more for it. And as a seller, that should send off really good alarm bells for you. Hey, wait a minute, I can get a higher price by optimizing your business. Yes, you can. I tell owners all the time, with respect to your cash flow that you can get out of the company, you can have it now. Absolutely, you can have it now. Take it all you want, or you can have a multiple of it later. Make the investments, optimize the company. And so what I hear you saying is pretty much reinforcing that from your experience.
Yeah, but even to piggyback on you, Bob, is the qualitative side of your life will improve dramatically as well. We're not just talking about getting a multiple on the back end, which of course is going to be there, but along the way, you're not shouldering the burden of responsibility. You're not carrying the weight of leadership alone. You're not the one answering and being the only burden of yes. You're not getting fatigued with decision making. And all of us who've been CEOs before know how incredibly cumbersome it is to always be the person that has to answer every question every day, always. It's exhausting. I ran a $100 million company, and I got to a point where just answering, what are we going to do for lunch today? I mean, I wanted to pull out my hair. I don't even have any hair.
Yeah.
Viewers or listeners on audio, I'm bald. But if I had hair, I would want to pull it out. I couldn't even answer, where did we want to go to lunch today? It was exhausting. It would pain my chest to ask that question because as a CEO, you're just all day, every day being answering questions, stuff that people should be able to answer themselves. And you just get to a point where you want to get away from it, and you want to minimize the amount of question fatigue that you have. And if you cannot carry that much burden, the qualitative side of your life will dramatically improve it. And oh, by the way, if you can make a multiple on the exit, great.
Where two-part question, because this is getting good. When are you most often brought in? At what stage in that journey? And second part, where would you like to be brought in? I think I know the answer to that one.
Yeah, Bob, this is great. I normally get brought in right when someone's about to have a massive panic attack.
Oh boy.
Um,
Yeah.
you know, um, it's either tears or a panic attack. I hear all the time, I can't do this anymore. My wife is about to divorce me. My husband hates me. I don't see my kids anymore. I'm exhausted. I see a lot of red eyes, you know, and I'm hearing a lot of times like I just can't do this anymore. It's overwhelming. It's exhausting.
Red eyes as in substance abuse of some kind.
Fatigue.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sleepless
Yeah,
nights.
yeah. Sleepless
Yeah.
nights,
Okay.
fatigue, deprivation,
Yeah.
frustration, tears,
Yep.
um, and just overwhelmedness. I, People don't want to be on this track alone. And one of the loneliest jobs on the planet is that of the CEO. There is no rule book. There is no, and if you've never been in that role, it's just you just don't know, right? So there is no person telling you what it's like, and no one can really sympathize or empathize. So it's very difficult to experience it. Everybody just thinks it's this amazing role that, oh, I'm a
Yep.
CEO of a company, and but
Highly
no,
compensated. I got a great title, flashy car in the parking lot.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, you're expected, you're on a pedestal. Every action is being magnified 10x. You're expected to have every answer perfect. Um, you have to require to have the vision. You're managing up a board of directors, you're managing down a leadership team, a team of employees. Um, it's a very lonely role, and in many cases, it's hard as a founder. You've built that from 0 to 1, right? So you've created something out of nothing, and it can be very exhausting. You're carrying a lot of this on your back, almost all of it, right? So when you finally have the courage, the discipline, the courage to ask for help, you've really hit rock bottom. So a lot of times, when I'm called in, someone's kind of at their weakest, and I want to help them, right? And I start by telling them, hey, I've been there before. I know who you are. I know
Sure.
where you are. I want to help you. Let's dissect where you're at right now. Let's guide you through this. Let's triage it, and let's get you to a point where you can feel good. Now, where I'd like to, Bob, you know this more than anybody. Get me there before the breakdown occurs,
Yeah.
right? Get me there a year before, where we can build some structure in, and before you collapse. Um, get me there before the heart attack, right? Get me there so you can start exercising before the heart attack,
Not
right?
have months and months of therapy after you've had a major surgery.
Want to.
And yeah.
Bingo, right? So get me there so we can start building some structures. Get me there so we can start developing a cadence, communication, and management structure and organizational theory. What does your vision look like? What does the strategy look like? What kind of accountability structure do we have in the business?
Mm.
Right? What foundational principles do we have in the business that your team is following? Are we having one-on-ones in the business? What do they look like? How do we hold our team accountable? What does that look like? Right. And so, do we have SOPs in our business? Do you even know what those are? Do we have a vision? Do you even know what that is? Right. These are all just very high level things that if we don't even understand what those types of things are, Well, this is a great start to the conversation.
Yeah.
And the way I kind of look at this is going on a vacation, Bob, is most business owners, they just say, I'm taking a left hand turn. They don't know where they're going, they don't know why they're getting there. They just know they're taking left hand
Isn't it
turns.
often the case where their instinct pulls them, their intuition pulls them in a direction, and too often it's not grounded in something
Logic.
logic. Yeah.
Yeah. There's no principle. There's
Hey,
no
which hill do we tackle today? That one
yeah,
over there.
yeah, yeah. Let's just go there. Right. Whereas it's like, okay, well, hey guys, we're going to Disney next July. We're going to save this much money. We're going to take time off of work. We're going to need to do X, Y, and Z to get there. We're going to buy tickets. We're going to put an agenda together.
But Pete, that's not exciting. That's not as exciting as the chase, as working great under pressure and accomplishing a lot in a short period of time. Come on, that's the fun
Yeah,
part of running a business. Always
yeah,
being
yeah.
in reactive mode, isn't that the fun part?
Well, I tell you, you any company you work with, when you see how much they accomplish when they have plans versus how much they accomplish when they don't have plans,
Yeah,
there is a dramatic difference. And when I say dramatic, it's probably 20 to 1 how many goals they get completed when they build them out versus when they don't.
yeah.
20 might be
I'll take 10 to 1 odds. I mean
yeah,
that I like those odds a lot better than
yeah,
-10 going backwards.
yeah,
I
yeah.
heard years ago. I heard a stat, and hopefully we're entering an era, or we're already a little bit into an era where owners reach out more. I heard a stat years ago that the boomer demographic, who still own the vast majority of small businesses out there, as we sit here at the beginning of 2026, the boomer demographic was really divided into two, maybe not exact halves, but divided into two groups. The front half, or the younger ones, I'm sorry, the older ones born first, uh, they became the part of the generation that defined the boomer generation. It's all about me, live for today, don't plan for tomorrow. The back group, the younger group, maybe because they looked at their older siblings and said, absolutely not, I don't want to make those kinds of decisions and end up that way. They were largely more planning oriented in nature. Then you go to my generation, the Gen X, and it's the data is starting to trickle in, which says Gen X wants to sell their company sooner than boomers have sold theirs. So, and they're more open to accepting advice from the outside. So, I guess the point I'm trying to make is we might be entering kind of this golden era of 15, 20 years or so of business owners who actually reach out, or if they don't reach out, if they're approached by someone like you, they respond well to the idea of getting help from the outside as a way to start optimizing their companies. Have you ever heard anything like that? Have you been encountering more owners that are more open to getting help?
Well, I can tell you one thing I can just say confidently is that I have never had a baby boomer client
Yeah.
where I've had plenty of Gen Xers.
Well, there you go,
Uh,
folks. There's the data.
you could say that with what you will, but I don't know if a Gen Xer or a baby boomer has ever hired a business coach in the history of baby boomers in the entire world. But I don't think self help books ever existed in baby boomer time either. So
Yep.
maybe not. I don't think therapy was a thing that existed for boomers either. Um,
No, I don't.
no.
I don't think so.
So I'm fairly certain, and my father, wherever he is, God rest his soul, um, hopefully in heaven, if all worked out well, would probably agree that therapy is something that is great that his generation just never really got into it.
Yep. Yeah, they sought maybe they sought therapy in other ways. Who knows? All
Yeah,
right, there. Hey,
exactly.
let's turn our attention a little bit, maybe get a little more granular,
Yeah.
because this could easily lead into a conversation about clarifying roles with whoever's on the works in the company that needs to be optimized. This could lead into a conversation about clarifying roles, creating team effectiveness, and I know you emphasize that. I've heard you talk about that before. How do those two things translate into reducing owner dependence and building what I think you've called stronger business resilience?
Yeah.
I like that phrase.
Yeah. So a lot of what that is whenever you're developing out what the structure of the business looks like, part of the issue is the team doesn't understand what their roles and responsibilities are. And so to develop something like an accountability chart, an org chart, and develop job descriptions and roles and responsibilities, what are these guardrails for your employees? And I kind of think of it as like driving on the highway, right? So if your employees understand driving on the highway like their roles and responsibilities, they understand where the white lines and the yellow lines are.
Okay.
What am I supposed to do? What's the speed limit? What does good look like? What's acceptable and what's not acceptable? How much should I do? How much shouldn't I do? These rules of the road, so to speak, we have to communicate that to our employees. And
Mm.
too often we don't do that. We hold these in our head. We don't communicate them. That's what we call leadership,
Is there a
right?
lot of assumptions, assuming of things that goes on? Like
Absolutely.
I hired him. I told them what to do. I looked at their resume. I told them it matched up with what we needed here. And I just assume that they know from that point forward what to do in our organization.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, to a fault. We do that whenever we hire a new person. We do that whenever we promote somebody in our company. We assume that they carry those new role uh, understandings of that new position as well, where they don't. They
Yep.
don't understand what good looks like in that new position. We assume because they were good at the previous job, they should know and be good at the next job. We have to treat everyone like they're a brand new employee when they get promoted.
Do
When
you
they,
do you find do you find that when you're brought in that there's some work to do there, and you're maybe even helping redefine roles, maybe reboarding, not onboarding. That happened before when they were first hired. But all right, we're here now. We're here to optimize the company. Pick whatever language or terminology you want to use, but help management and ownership communicate down what good, like you said, I like that phrase, what good looks like now for them, and that's an area that you can be brought in to help improve the company.
oh yeah, 100%. I do this in almost every single company I work with. Is we take the entire team roster and we look at it like the bullet points that each of the team members do. We take all of them, we put them on a whiteboard, and we say that these are the 80 things that our people do. Does it make sense that they sit in those same seats, those same buckets? If not, let's move them around. We don't have to be the gatekeepers for anything specific here. We own the company. We can do whatever we want to do. So let's do it.
Yeah.
If it doesn't make sense that this person over here does this, and this, let's go ahead and flip it. Let's switch things out. And if we decide in the middle of this conversation that there is a completely vacant role that exists that would make our lives so much easier if we filled, let's go out and hire that role. But also, in this conversation, we might eliminate a role. We might find that there is a role that is totally unnecessary for our company. So let's have that conversation too. So let's take all of these different types of accountabilities that we have on the table. Let's throw them on a whiteboard. Let's discuss them. And then let's put them on people's boxes. And from there, make a discussion. What goes next? And then let's communicate it out to the team. Let them know what their roles and responsibilities look like, what good looks like, what their expectations are, and how they can deliver. And I think a lot of times people forget that last part. So they decide all of this in an office and then they say, we're done.
Yep.
But nobody knows, right? So you have to go back through, you have to re-communicate that to the team, and then you have to hold them accountable to it. That's where leadership comes in. And that's the fundamental thing is we forget we go into the office, we have these conversations, and then we forget we actually have to do something with it, right? We have to manage. We have to
They just start that loop of assumption all over again.
yeah, exactly. We have to like the team's just going to know we talked about it
Yeah.
in some office somewhere, right? Uh, but no, we have to go and like we have to build out like a change management document and let the team know, explain to them what it looks like, allow them to ask questions, tell them why we're changing it, and have them a part of the discussion.
So regular reinforcement, call it a cadence. I've heard,
Yeah,
during this, so far you've talked about cadence. I've heard you talk about cadence in a group setting as well. This weekly rhythm, scorecards and meetings. Why is it important that CEOs look when they're looking to sell down the road? Why is this establishing of a cadence so critical?
oh, it's just massively critical. And the fact is that you can pluck yourself out and pluck somebody else in easily. That's what's so critical, right? Is when you go to sell, the buyer wants you to be gone,
Yep.
right? And they want somebody else to be able to be plucked in easily. How can I take this person out and put myself in the equation and get rid of you and not miss a beat?
And your compensation, and if we can do more with the people that remain because you've empowered them, you've trained them, you've given them the tools, you've identified rising leaders and helped them get to different levels within the company. I see it now. I've told owners who might sell someday over the years. I've said you want to build a company that can almost run without you. And you want to be able to convince that future owner, your buyer, that it almost doesn't matter who, to your point, I guess I'm wording what you just said a little differently. It almost doesn't matter who owns this company. This thing keeps humming along. This machine, this cash generating machine just keeps cranking, doesn't miss a beat.
The last book I wrote, Build Kick-Ass Teams, I talk about in the last chapter, the most successful teams I've ever run, I felt like I was totally unnecessary.
Whoa, nice.
And that's where success felt like. I show up or not show up, and the team would be crushing it. And that's, in my opinion, the barometer of success for a leader is that team would be cranking, would be operating at full cylinder, full throttle, and I wouldn't even share. And Bob, that's kind of what we're talking about here. If the leader or the owner could step out and that team would still be operating at full capacity, that's what a great sale opportunity looks like. That's what a perfect exit looks like. And that's what a perfect opportunity looks like for a buyer.
Yep. I find sophisticated buyers in particular, private equity, strategics, family offices, frankly, they want most of the problems fixed before they come along. They're not, oh, I'm looking for companies and I only want to spend 60 or 70 cents on the dollar. That's not, they're not looking for companies with big discounts. Big discounts create big problems. They're indicative of big problems.
Yeah,
You
they've
know,
got money. They want to invest it intelligently.
they have a lot of money. You know it. I know it. Our business owner audience needs to own that, know it, and own it as well.
Yeah.
Um, build a company that stands out among your peers. So imagine KPIs, key performance indicators, come in, into this conversation as well. We're tracking stuff. We got a regular rhythm going. We're finding out who's good at what. We're maybe doing a little bit of internal reorg, letting go of some folks, hiring some new folks. But there's got to be some KPIs that buyers tend to look for that owners often don't track reliably, but it would be in their best interest if they did. What do you find are some of those KPIs?
I get this question all the time, right? And I think it's important to say it's variable, right? KPIs be variable by the industry and based on where you're currently at. I think that you variable KPIs should always be a mixture of both objective and subjective KPIs. So I think a lot of times we always want to just build SMART goal based KPIs, just strict numerical KPIs.
Yep.
And
And
that,
this set of KPIs applies to all company types and sizes.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's a mistake because a lot of team members don't really, especially the newer generation of team members, don't really respect that. Gen Z, Gen Y don't really respect that. Um,
I could see that.
a lot of sales folks love black and white, but ops folks have a hard time resonating with black and white KPIs, and it's hard to measure their performance, especially on non-rolling metrics. I think a lot of times we have to have sometimes subjective metrics. Same with HR. HR has to have subjective metrics. So ENPS. Sometimes we have internal net promoter scores, or we have things like cultural scores or cultural index scores. But I always want to just recommend some leading measures, some lagging measures.
Yep.
So leading measures are measures that tell us the future. Lagging measures are measures that tell us the past. And then I want to have objective measures, which are clear, black and white, and subjective measures, which are measures that tell us, like, oh, okay, you sort of tell us indicative of the business. And
Yep.
I want a mixture of those four things to be KPI based. And every business is different. And I'm not trying to give you a vague answer on this, but it's just really every business is different. I have 25 companies I coach, and all 25 have different scorecards.
Yep.
Maybe the only one metric that they all have in common is revenue. you know, uh,
That's
revenue
a good
this
one.
year, revenue last year, comparative growth year over year, profit, payroll percentage of revenue, um, expenses as a percentage of revenue. Uh, those are pretty much it. One thing I do track a lot though is I do like to look at AR as a percentage of revenue.
Accounts receivable. Yep.
That's one that a lot of companies slip on if they're not paying attention to. They let their AR just slip. And if they're not intentional with it, it becomes a problem.
Yep. Yep. Decreasing that cash conversion cycle.
Yeah, it just should be something that people are talking about, right? And it's just, you could tell the companies that aren't talking about it, they're not thinking about their cash in the right way.
Yep.
They're thinking about it like it's, cash doesn't mean anything. It's just, their P&L is a report and not money.
Let's talk about you know things that either add or detract to value. I think you've called it value leaks, value leakage in the past. So when a business doesn't have this regular cadence, this regular rhythm of constant cyclical improvement of the business, what value leakage are you seeing that could have been prevented? I mean, these owners are they're probably literally leaving money on the table when it comes time to sell.
Yeah, I mean, definitely from a leakage standpoint, if we don't have something like a CRM in place with automation,
Mm,
that's a huge one, right? Where are our customers being acknowledged? How is that being automated? Where is that being organized and accounted for? Um, what does our sales process look like? What is our customer journey? Where is that documented? Who's accountable for it? If you're telling me right now that your sales process is kept in a notebook, I'm concerned,
Yeah, sure.
right? If your accounting is on paper, I'm concerned. Operations, we're at a point right now in 2026 where the majority of your operations should be done through computers and scanning. If you're not doing most of your work through barcoding and scanning, I'm concerned,
Mm.
right? You're probably dealing with a lot of ERP issues if you're not scanning. You're probably doing a lot of double inventories. You're probably missing a lot of things on inventory, double
Data, good
counts.
good data has always been key in
Oh, yeah.
excellent decision making or non-excellent decision making. The lack of data.
Oh, yeah.
It's just getting more and more apparent as these tools that roll out that help us interpret, manage, and improve the data become more widely available. And to your point, I think I've heard it before said this way, and that is what you don't track or measure can't be improved. I'm not exact on that phrase. Have you heard that before?
Yeah. Any number you track gets better.
Yeah.
So anything you're not tracking isn't going to get better, right? And so that's the whole point of a scorecard, right? Any number you put on the scorecard will get better.
Yep.
For me, I want an accountability system. So I want, how are you measuring your leadership team? What's the weekly leadership team meeting? What's the cadence for the team? Are you meeting with them weekly? What's the cycle for that? What's the management meeting cycle? So these are all things that I'm looking for when I meet with somebody first and foremost.
Yeah. And like any group of employees, some of them, in an attempt to look like they're being held accountable, they end up just doing things that make them look busy
Yeah.
instead. And there's a difference, right? Busy for the sake of trying to look accountable to your employer is effort lost. Why does any of this matter for scaling and eventual exit planning, like we talk about here on the show? I mean, it seems like, well, I'll let you take it from there. I've got some thoughts on it, but
Well, I mean, a lot of that's just waste, right? Operational inefficiency,
yep.
right? If you're just wasting, um, when we're talking about inefficiencies and we're talking about waste, um, you know, you basically, it is a microcosm for the rest of the business.
Mm,
And if you have employees right now that are not getting anything accomplished with time on the calendar, what else is going on in your business? What are the sales reps doing? Are they only waiting for inbound leads to sell? Are they not being proactive at all? Are they not drumming up business?
wow, it's almost like, if you tolerate the small stuff, you're going to tolerate it when it becomes bigger
Bingo.
as well.
It's a cultural.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, you just said it, Bob, you just said it perfect. It is a microcosm for the culture of the entire business. And it's led from the leader itself. What you tolerate becomes the entire culture.
Yeah.
And so that just goes to show when you decide to leave the business, when you try to sell a business, your culture is still there, right? You're selling your culture. You're not just selling your business, you're selling your culture. So someone's going to come in, they're going to try to buy your culture too.
Yeah.
And if your culture is one that you look beyond inefficiency and you look beyond inadequacy and people just skating by, not doing everything for their shift that they should be. I think it just goes to show there's probably a lot more holes there if we start digging.
The buyers are quick to be concerned.
16%.
Yep. and where the more problems they find, the more they're discounting the the price they're willing to pay from the price you're trying to get.
Yes.
So in the spirit of cadence and rhythm and flow, is there any like just one accountability habit you install, Mr. and Miss Owner listening, you install this accountability habit this quarter, and you're going to dramatically strengthen and build up an owner's return on investment?
Yeah. I mean, right now, the easiest thing to do to dramatically improve the quality of your business immediately is schedule weekly one on one meetings with your direct reports and have your leadership team schedule weekly one on one meetings with their direct reports every week forever.
Just
And
commit to it.
those weekly one on one meetings, be honest, be transparent, and let those folks know what is working, what isn't working, and what needs to be worked on by next week, and follow up on it. That's it. Super simple, and do it every single week.
I guess I'm doing something right then. Here at Exit Teams, we have a weekly meeting. My wife helps out. My son, I have one son out of five children, and my oldest daughter. So my wife, my son, and my oldest daughter, we meet weekly,
It's great.
30 minutes, 45 minutes, whatever it takes. What are we doing today to help owners? What are we doing to help their families and all the other employees that depend on them? And just let that set the tempo and the backdrop for the meeting. Why even push content out on a regular basis? So I'll have to turn to the team after this episode is over and say we're doing something right. Weekly cadence, I love it.
There you go.
Um, for founders who bring you in as kind of a fractional chief operating officer, or I think in the EOS space, it's called integrator. What problems are you usually solving first? Like they're universal, or they're in enough cases where I know I'm going to have to hit this head on and pretty quickly because this is so common.
I mean, the thing that I typically do more than anything else is I run, implement, and execute the leadership team meeting. So the thing that
Interesting.
most of my clients love about me is I'm the guy who hosts and facilitates the leadership team meeting. So I hold the leadership team accountable. I get on a call and run the meeting. I facilitate it and make sure everyone's accountable to their goals, the vision, the strategy. I keep everybody on task, and I do that every single week. So that's the big thing that people really look forward to with me. And that's been my biggest part of the engagement. And then every quarter, I come on site and then I run the vision session to set up every quarter the updated quarterly goals.
Okay.
And that's what keeps us going forward. That's what keeps the plan going forward. And I do that every quarter and every annual.
So you're coming in from the outside, call it external operational support. You're just not just advice, but you're getting in there, rolling up sleeves, rolling with the punches. Hey, I just thought of that.
That's right.
You actually have the ability to change the organization's ability to execute and deliver. Do you not?
Yeah, 100%. That's my favorite thing is, and why I do it too, is when I was a CLO, I could only impact one company. And here I can impact 20, 25. So I just love it that much more because I could just impact more companies.
That's uh, that's cool. So when should an owner bring in this kind of, call it, embedded leadership support, kind of like a reporter gets embedded in a military operation on a forward line, uh, versus waiting until they're in crisis or late in the exit timeline? I'm guessing you have some thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think probably the best time is whenever they realize that they've got a leadership team right now or don't have a leadership team but should.
Mm.
If you're the owner and you're handling all the decisions by yourself, you're over $1 million, under $20 million, don't have a developed structure yet, you're a perfect fit, right? You've got
Yep.
a director of operations, a director of sales, a director of marketing, but you guys don't have a formal structure yet. What does that look like? Do you have a vision? Are you following any strategy? Do you have company goals? How do you know you're achieving them? When do you meet to talk about them? Does your team have a say on what those goals look like? Do they take steps towards achieving those goals? Do you report on them regularly? That's the kind of stuff that we solve during my meetings.
I'm often asked, I sell companies and I'm often asked, Bob, when do you want to be introduced to a business owner? My first response is yes, just make an introduction. But if you pin me down and you said, give me a range, give me a date range, I'd say 3 to 5 years out.
Yeah.
And you might say, well, wait a minute, don't you make money when the company sells? Yes, but I'd rather take an optimized company to market than one that's not optimized. I have an 82% success rate, so I end up doing a lot of, you used the word triage earlier. I end up doing a lot of reverse due diligence on businesses with my buyer hat on. Bringing someone like you in and other people around the owner in this kind of collaborative team environment accomplishes at least two things I've noticed over the years. And we go with the 3 to 5 year range on purpose because it accomplishes two things. Number one, you improve the company and you don't burn out the owner. So if we go to the owner and say we're going to be making changes, but it's going to take 10 years to get there to make your
Oof.
company better, can you imagine the response you're going to get? No, sorry. But if you go to him or her and say, let's just get started, we might be able to make some substantive changes in a year or two, but we really need 3 to 5 years, you'll probably get a lot more buy-in. So you won't get, that owner resistance. The second thing that 3 to 5 year window accomplishes is you get to build enough change into the organization. You get to optimize it in such a way that you've made those changes sticky enough over a long enough period of time that you impress that future buyer, that the changes you've made are going to persist when they become the new owner. And subset, you're going to impress that future buyer's provider of capital, whether it's a lender, investors, a fund of some kind. So 3 to 5 year window, owners, if you're listening and you can hang in there for that length of time, I've noticed that's when buyers tend to accept the changes that you're making, that you're presenting on financial statements, that you're presenting in all the marketing pieces that you're giving them to examine the company by. What leadership or execution issue most often shows up in due diligence? Now that we're talking about thinking like a buyer, that reduces buyer confidence. It's just you know it, you can see it coming.
Yeah, I mean, I think probably the biggest thing has got to be tied to the pride or ego, right? Leadership challenges that I've seen are tied to insecurity with owners, right?
Yep.
Insecurity, the owner who um, has some emotional
I
challenges.
can tell you're being delicate with the topic.
I'm being delicate, right? And you know why, right?
Yeah.
You know why, but insecurity is going to be the word I use right here, and that is going to result in blowups and those owners that terminate people without reason or justification,
Mm.
frustrations, anger issues, screaming matches, hostility. Those are types of things that can break a year's worth of work in one sentence. And that's going to be one of the hardest things that can kill you in due diligence, right? You can plan, you can strategize, you can do so much effort, but it is really hard when you have an owner who um, you know puts kerosene on a on a fire.
Yep. I I've come to think of due diligence in these terms, and that's when an owner, irrespective of what the valuation report said, irrespective of what his buddy sold his company for, or that teaser offer that somebody threw out, or all the multiples that exist in your industry, due diligence is where an owner gets to find out what their company is actually worth. And all these issues come up. These buyers are getting more sophisticated. I have not seen it yet because it's kind of early, in this AI era that we're in. But I would not be surprised if you told me, Bob, 10, 20% of private equity firms and, professional sophisticated buyers are using AI to do a lot of the analysis of companies for them. Would
Oh,
not
I'm
be
sure.
surprised to
I'm
hear an
sure.
even larger number at this early stage, even.
I'm sure there's prompt engineering right now that probably represents 50% of it.
Got to be.
Yeah. I mean, there's the amount of prompts that are built for stuff like that exist right now. I mean, it's got to be at least 50%.
And I've noticed there's a refrain that runs through a lot of buyer objections. It varies by industry, it varies by company size, of course, but we see this. We know the 70, 80+% of the problems that they're going to find and the issues they're going to raise and the reasons they're going to discount. So we've got to get ahead of it. In your world of leadership development, I mean, if an owner could just do 3 leadership actions this quarter to strengthen their, call it their value story, what should they prioritize? Rubber's meeting the road right now. You have the floor.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you're going to invest right now, first and foremost, start by investing into your team. Right. And by that, I mean investing into development by coaching, empowerment, autonomy, having one-on-ones. So that's right now the number one thing. First off, is like having consistent leadership coaching inside your building. Make
Yep.
a intentional leadership coaching program inside your building. That's the first thing. Develop the people around you. Right. So that's number one. Number
Because
two.
because because not to, if you could just hold
Yeah.
that thought for a minute, not because if they could have done it, they would have tried to fix it, or been halfway successful at least at fixing these problems before you came along. But the fact that they aren't already improved in certain areas means they can't do it themselves internally and they need help from the outside.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, your greatest asset that you have in your building and the greatest asset you have inside your company is your people. So you need to leverage that first,
Yep.
right? You're not going to be able to do it yourself. And if in the absence of Pete, the roll with the punches guy, go leverage the greatest asset you have, your people. So that's the first thing is go, if you can do the most that you possibly can do right now, go leverage your people.
Yep.
Right? So develop your people. The second thing is go develop your systems. So build out some kind of a structure in your business, whatever that structure is. I don't care what it is. Go research some operational methodology. How are you running your business? If you don't know how you're running your business, you don't know how you're running your business. So research some way to run your business. If you don't know how you're running your business, you're not running your business. Right?
It's running you.
It's running you. Yeah, there's some architecture to run your business. There's plenty of different methods. That's called an operational methodology. Come up with one that you like and follow it. It's a
Mm.
system,
Mm.
right? It's like an iOS for your phone.
So just basically just get started with something.
Get started with something. To-do tracking. How do people know what they're supposed to do and when? How to, the best way I explain it to people, because it's easier for people to understand this because of the like iPhones. It's like iOS for your phone. It's like It's how your phone works, right? It's how your business works.
Yep.
Um, Most people just like come to work and they just go to work. And
Time to
this is,
make the donuts.
yeah, it's time to make the donuts, but like, how does that all work together? And that's called an operating system, right? And so you need to come up with that. So first off is build a leadership structure. The second thing is build an operating system. And third off is come up with a vision and strategy. And this one's super simple, right? But we talk about the vacation thing is, and I don't care where you come up with it, is just understand where you want to go on vacation and why. Make a North Star. Look at it often. Follow it. Where's your North Star? Does your team know your North Stars? How could you possibly expect your entire company to follow you somewhere if they have no idea where the North Star is? It doesn't make any sense. It constantly confounds me when people say my team doesn't, they're not all on board. And I'll ask them, well, do they know what the company vision is? We don't have one. Well, how are they supposed to know?
I thought they would just absorb it by virtue of showing up every day.
Yeah, good vibes isn't a culture. Good vibes isn't a vision. No, oh man, no. So you've got to come up with a vision. There's got to be some kind of thing going on here, right? Where are we trying to go with this thing? It's not rocket science. Like, what are you trying to do with it?
May I offer it? You said it's super simple, but it's also super hard. It's
So
super difficult because you have to initiate it. You have to put effort into it.
yeah, you got to do it.
Yeah,
You got to do
and
it.
oh, you have to get the input of people other than the owner.
Yeah,
what what are the employ what collective knowledge do the employees have that they where they can weigh in on what the vision of the company could be? Hold on, that doesn't feel comfortable. I'm not too happy with that.
all three of those things require one word: intentionality.
There you go.
That's it.
I think I know the answer to this. I like to ask guests, kind of rapid fire stuff. Biggest leadership myth that owners believe that actually kills value.
I'm the smartest person in the room.
Yep, yep. One hinge metric that owners overlook that buyers actually care a lot about.
Ooh, I would say retention.
Mm, key in today's environment. One habit that separates owners who exit successfully from those who struggle.
Humility. Ooh, that's not a habit. What's a habit though? Acting humble.
Okay. Good recovery. All right. And owners thinking about exit in the next 2 to 3 years, the very first leadership action they should be taking this month is what and why?
Read your book.
Hey, well, thank you.
Yeah.
Your and some of yours too.
Now, yours first. Mine second. Yours first.
Appreciate that.
And why? Well, honestly, it's because if they're going to plan on leaving and plan on trying to move on from their thing, they've got to understand what's in front of them and what bad looks like and what good looks like. And
I
I think that your book does exactly that.
I
And
I tried.
that's not a puff piece, right? That's the God's honest truth.
I appreciate that very much. I wanted owners to realize in a very cost-effective way at $14.99 for the paperback. I wanted them to realize what they're in for. Make an investment of $15 before you leave, $1.5 million on the table because you went into the sale process with an unoptimized company against a sophisticated buyer with a team of their own. Owners, if you're going to become sellers and you've got any transferable value, you've got to build your own team because that buyer is for sure going to have one. Pete, this has
100%.
been awesome. Where can people reach you if they're interested in hiring you or having a discussion?
Yeah, so I'm my website is www.rollwithpunch.com. You could buy all my books on Amazon or Barnes and Noble, all those kinds of places. And yeah, you can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn.
Cool. Well, folks, that's a wrap of today's episode of the Exit Teams podcast. A big thank you to my guest, Pete Srodoski, for sharing his insights. So, hey, if you're an owner and you're listening and you run a company and you've got people and you intend on selling your company, I suggest you reach out to Pete, see how he can help. If you're a business owner thinking about your next chapter, now's the time, today, now, to start building your advisory team. You can learn more in my book, Exit Teams. Build a team of advisors for your business sale to get a higher price. Available on Amazon. And don't forget to visit exitteams.com for free resources and tools and a masterclass that can help you prepare for a successful exit. Until next time, build your team, sell smart, and take control of your future.